A new alliance has been fostered together, but will this one actually do something or even last for the most part? Because we had one of them and it fell apart between what was at the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12, and then the Pac-12 dissolved. But the Big Ten and the SEC are coming together. They've created an advisory group that's going to advise, I'm assuming. But I'm going to be honest, this feels like the first move towards an NFC, AFC setup in the college football ranks where the two big dogs bounce from what the NCAA is doing. We're going to dive into that. Also, Iowa self-reports infractions? Sounds bad. Because I think it might be. And lastly, Tennessee is under investigation. And honestly, I think that has everything to do with what the SEC and Big Ten is doing. We'll dive into all of that here on Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. Thank y'all for pulling up. I'm your host, Jay. Thanks for watching us here on the YouTube channel. And if you're listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to, we appreciate that as well. While you're here, please wipe your feet. Hit that like button if you like the content. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and rate us and review us and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Just go ahead and give us 5 anyway and gift it. So let's jump into this first topic. The Big Ten and the SEC create an alliance. We're all together. So now, as a long-standing member of the SEC, my Oklahoma Sooners, we have some skin in this game, right? You know, it's been years of us being part of this SEC, as in like 1 month. So we are going to feel what's going on here. So let's talk about what this means. So statement came out, Big Ten, SEC, the two commissioners have decided to work closely together, and their whole purpose behind this is, let me just read what it says. The Big Ten and the SEC have substantial investment in the NCAA, and there is no question that the voices of our two conferences are integral to governance and other reform efforts. We recognize the similarities in our circumstances, as well as the urgency to address the common challenges we face. So basically, that's a statement from the Big Ten commissioner, SECs. There are similar cultural and social impacts on our student athletes, our institutions, and our communities because of the new collegiate athletic environment, Sankey said in a statement. We do not have predetermined answers to the myriad questions facing us. We do not expect to agree on everything, but enhancing interaction between our conferences will help to focus efforts on common sense solutions. So basically, they saw that the NCAA generated $1.3 billion on its own and said, nah, we need to talk about this. And then the NCAA is coming down on Tennessee on an investigation that they broke some NIL rules. NCAA's like, nah, we ain't working on that. And then Iowa is self-reporting violations of tampering. And the Big Ten said, hey, man, can we talk about this? It feels like all of this is tied together because that's what happened to start the week was Tennessee and Iowa's situation. And now we have the Big Ten and SEC working together. Coincidence? Possibly. I don't know. I'm kind of questioning if it's a coincidence or not. And I say that mainly because we all know that the NCAA is in turmoil right now, right? They're bringing in billions by themselves. Remember, the $1.3 billion in revenue that the NCAA generated, about, what's that? $900 million of it is like for the March Madness tournament. So the rest of it is like just other little stuff. I mean, it's, you know, it's over 69% of it is from March Madness. So you may be asking yourself, all right, Jay, that means $1.3 billion. That doesn't sound like a lot with as many teams are in the NCAA. And you're right. But remember, the NCAA has nothing to do with the conference's TV deals. So this is kind of like the icing on top of all the big cakes that's built by all these conferences. The NCAA is making money, right? And I don't think it's a money grab for these two schools, because these two conferences, because they got their own big TV deals. So they're good when it comes to that. But I think it's the NCAA doing this, the NCAA going through all their lawsuits. They're not asking questions of, does it make more sense for us to make our own league and do our own thing? Or should we continue to associate ourselves with the NCAA with all the stuff they're going through? personally, I think they're right. Like, what sense does it make to still maintain this relationship with the NCAA? You're still going to be able to have like association with schools and stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you do that. You do it with like licensing deals and stuff like that to have the teams and everything, keep the kids in school. You know, you can bring in revenue and actually start paying them. I mean, the one thing is, at some point, the NCAA is about to lose enough antitrust lawsuits that they're going to have to find a way to pay the players, like as employees, because they're generating so much money. If this was like, a few $100,000 in rev, no. NCAA, college football is a massive business. Massive business. They make a ton of money doing this. And so with these two schools these two conferences looking at this saying, hey man, there's got to be a better way to run this, especially now with the way the transfer portal's going. You got the multiple windows. That's weird. You've got NIL, which seems to be getting weirder for people. There's got to be a better way to run this organization, to run this business. And so having an advisory board makes sense. Now, I think the funny thing I saw in this is that this advisory board will not have authority to implement any type of change. It's more so just like a consultant. But I feel like that having a consultant like that is basically to figure out what makes the most sense moving forward for the conference. What makes the most sense moving forward for college football? There's a chance that the Big Ten and the SEC could break off, do their own thing, because they are the powerful conferences in college football. Ain't nobody else as strong as them. I mean, look at it. SEC just added Oklahoma and Texas, two of the largest brands in college football. And then the Big Ten added USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon, four more massive brands in college football. And so both of these conferences basically own all of the top 10 brands in college football for the most part. I mean, you could probably say that Florida State's up there in some capacity, right? You could say that they could breach the top 10 potentially, but at least the top 5 brands outside of Notre Dame, who probably need to join a conference. They probably will, but I digress. We won't dive into the Notre Dame controversy, but it's kind of interesting to see what's going to come next. I don't see any changes imminently, but I do see changes within the next 5 years. Within the next 5 years, there's going to be a big change. And it's going to be led because of what the Big Ten and the SEC is doing when it comes to the this little advisory board. Now, like I said at the beginning, they had an alliance before, and we didn't see anything come from the Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12 alliance besides the Pac-12 being poached for all their teams. Does that change this time around? Now, the good thing is the Big Ten and SEC are so big that they ain't going to be able to really just snatch each other's chains. Like, right? That's not something that's going to be happening. They're going to have to work together. They're two behemoths. But I'm hoping that this advisory board actually finds true solutions for what problems we see in college football. And I'm going to be honest, as much as I love NIL and transfer portal, there are gaps in there. There are blind spots that needs to be fixed. And I think the biggest one to be fixed with the transfer portal is how they have the scheduling of it, because it sucks. And it only sucks because it all aligns with the school schedule. The school schedule is aligned with classes because technically these are supposed to be student athletes, which I don't see where the student part comes in this besides the fact that they give them a scholarship, because all these dudes are athletes. All they do is go to work. They go to class and they go straight to work. That's it. So since that's the case, they're going to have to make school exceptions for these athletes. It's probably the one thing that's going to come down the line, because you can't change the academic schedule. Academic schedule is the academic schedule. They're going to have to make some sort of exceptions for these student athletes so that they can line up with this transfer portal window. That way things aren't rushed, especially when your coach leaves. Can't do anything about that. And please believe there's going to be more coaches leaving college football very soon. So I'm intrigued at what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Let me know what y'all thoughts on this new alliance created by, or advisory group created by the Big Ten and the SEC. And what do you think is going to come in fruition from that? Let's talk about that a little bit more later on. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is that what led to this advisory group coming together is the Iowa self-reporting themselves for level 3 violations. And so The Athletic reported Scott Docterman reports that an assistant coach had allegedly texted Proctor while Caden Proctor, the offensive lineman, the freshman offensive lineman that started at Alabama, he got text. And while, after he had a tough game for Alabama, and so being that he's currently on the roster at Alabama playing, and Iowa was in the running for his services, that ain't a smart thing to do, right? Well, this all came to fruition because Caden Proctor kind of snitched on himself. Check this out.
No bridges were burnt, you know what I'm saying? So that's why it was so easy for me to pick them when I did enter the transfer portal, because we still have those relationships. And even after I was doing bad in the SEC, and struggling, they hit me up and said, we're proud of you. You're gonna get through this, and that's what ultimately helped me with my decision, because they still believed in me. It feels good, you know what I'm saying? Like, as soon as I came in here, everybody, cheering me on, happy for me, and I know, I did leave, and it hurt people's hearts, and that it kind of equated into them showing hatred. But I mean, like I said, that's what every fan base does.
So basically, Caden Proctor opened his mouth, talking about them hitting him up, and telling him to keep his head up. That really is tampering, right? And the bad part is that you guys recruited this kid back, but y'all didn't put him through PR conversations. This is the thing about it, and let me preface why I say this. It's when it comes to student athletes, there's one thing that we always hear from coaches, coach speak, right? This is the coach speak. We hear it is that they're leaders of men, right? That they're supposed to be leaders and they're supposed to be teaching and helping these players, right? This is what bothers me. If you're a leader of men, shouldn't you be making sure these dudes are, prepared for just about any situation that can come down? And if any situation that we knew was going to come down is that Proctor is probably going to talk to somebody in the media. Everybody wants to know, so what made you leave Alabama and come back to Iowa and come back home? Everybody's going to ask that question. The PR team should be prepared for that. Gave him a statement, something to say. Y'all shouldn't have let this man go out there and say that y'all hit him up. That's not good, right? Like, we got to think about it in that capacity. That's not a good thing that he opened his mouth and said that. And so this is nothing but a major problem that's been going on. I know that as soon as Nick Saban left, I had somebody let me know that there's a ton of tampering that was going on with the players even before Saban left. And it looks like a lot of those players ended up leaving, which is a very common thing. That, they're tampering, the coach leaves, and then everybody's bouncing. And, I mean, the rumor is that Alabama was given the players were giving them the Alabama discount because of the competing in national championships, going to the league, playing for Nick Saban. All of that stuff has a lot of weight. Well, he ain't there no more. Kids like, so why am I taking a discount just to be here? So Alabama's got a lot of work to do on that capacity, which I think they'll be fine. But the thing is, Iowa self-reporting themselves is fascinating because they knew something heavier is coming down the line, right? So self-reporting is supposed to lighten up the penalty, similar to what Michigan did. Michigan, took a self-imposed 3-game suspension to start the year, and then he got another 3-game suspension for Harbaugh with all this, cheating stuff and contacting. Well, I think he would have bought a cheeseburger for a recruit, something like that, something silly. I don't think it was actually cheeseburger. I think that's just everybody made up just for the fun of it. But self-reporting this, I don't see any value to you all, Iowa, besides putting yourself in front. I guess trying to get in front of it, but I don't see that that's going to help you. Because if there's true tampering, there needs to be consequences. A hammer needs to be dropped for tampering. Seriously. Tampering's going to happen because the players are going to talk to each other regardless of what you do. But player-to-player tampering, that shouldn't be anything. That should just stay. The coaches shouldn't be involved. The coaches shouldn't be contacting players that are not on their team unless they're like actual family members. And that's almost questionable too. So, I don't know. What y'all think about Iowa self-reporting, basically snitching on themselves because Caden Proctor decided to snitch on themselves? Hop in the comments. Let me know how y'all feel about that. I think that that's a kind of an interesting topic to talk through. So I had to give an opinion on it. All right, last one on this one. Let's talk about Tennessee's whole situation with them being under investigation. And I'm going to be honest, the Vols AD, Danny White, kind of dropped a bar on the NCAA with this. So the NCAA is opening an investigation on Tennessee, saying that they had broke some rules in their recruitment of Nico Iamaleava, saying that, I guess he must have potentially got a flight that the team paid for that they weren't supposed to. That's the allegations or whatnot. And so that's the focus of it, right? And so it's funny that the NCAA decided to send out and say, yeah, we're going to investigate y'all for this. And, of course, all week everybody's been asking about it, NIL, people breaking rules and doing stuff they're not supposed to, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Harbaugh got the 3 games basically 6 games total, I guess you could say, for the situation with the recruit during COVID or whatnot, improper contact or buying cheeseburgers or some BS. But in which they still got the whole cheating scandal deal that's still in the air that no one knows what's going to happen with that. We're not talking about Michigan, we're talking about Tennessee here. They're going to try to bring the hammer on Tennessee in their NIL. And supposedly these are major, based upon some of the reporters, they're saying that these are some major violations that Tennessee committed and that this could be a huge deal down the line. I don't see how it could be that big. This is what the NCAA said. While the NCAA generally does not comment on specific infraction cases, it's important to remember that NCAA member schools and conferences not only make the rules, but routinely call for greater enforcement of those rules and holding violators accountable. In recent years, this has been especially true as it relates to establishing and enforcing a constant set of national rules intended to manage the name, image, and likeness environment. This legal action will exacerbate what our members themselves have frequently described as the Wild West atmosphere, further tilting competitive imbalance among schools in neighboring states, and diminishing protections for student athletes from potential exploitation. The NCAA remains firmly committed to protecting and expanding student athlete NIL rights and opportunities. However, our membership has steadfastly supported the prohibition on impermissible recruiting contacts, booster involvement in recruiting prospects, and the use of NIL offers as recruiting inducements. Hilarious that this is the statement that the NCAA decided to use, because the AD over at Tennessee decided to fire back with his own bars. And this is basically what Danny White said. The NCAA generally does not comment on infraction cases because there is a rule against it. However, that has not stopped them in the past from leaking information to the media, as they did this week about us. Their actions made this ill-conceived investigation public and forced us to defend ourselves. I would like to go even deeper into this, but dog, that was the bar right there. Y'all don't, because y'all don't comment on this stuff because there's rules. But then y'all leak all this stuff to the media. The NCAA is putting themselves in some hot water. And honestly, I think this piece here, the incompetence of the way that the NCAA is ran, is what's leading to that Big Ten SEC alliance and them going to, not alliance, advisory group, but it's an alliance. They're going to find a way to get the heck up out from underneath the NCAA, because the NCAA right now is in turmoil. But this investigation is dumb. So supposedly it looks like they're using past infractions to go for them with current stuff. Like, this is wild to me that the NCAA is really going after Tennessee like this, because, I think Tennessee probably did some stuff that they weren't supposed to do with NIL. Heck, I think every school in college football is doing stuff they ain't supposed to do with NIL. I mean, the game's the game. You want to make it easy? Pay the kids and then let them go sign their own endorsement deals outside of your collectives in your schools. Because technically that's what NIL is. It's endorsement deals, which is now funded by the fans, because collectives are getting donations from fans to be able to pay for players to bring them in. When it should be just kids go get their endorsement deals, in which honestly most of these players are not really endorsable, because you got to have kind of a personality to really do commercials and such. It's kind of like the way the NFL, if you notice that there's only certain players that do a lot of commercials and a lot of endorsement deals with big companies and such, or local companies, it's because of personality usually. But NIL is now turned into a way to pay the players to come to your school. That's why you're hearing about offensive linemen getting, $500,000 to $700,000 to come play at said school, because those positions are a premium, and in the NFL, they're expensive. You cost a lot of money to get an offensive lineman. Some of your top players are quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and defensive linemen when it comes to pay. And then you go around the circle of all the other players, in which the running back is at the bottom of the totem pole right next to the kicker. But outside of that, the NCAA thinking that they're going to enforce something like this, we've got to be serious about it. Like that, I guess they feel like that is the best thing that they have on these teams. Even though Iowa just self-reported themselves for reaching out to a player while he was on another team, and then they somehow landed him in the transfer portal. Even though I don't think the tampering portion was the reason why they landed him, I think he was going to go back home regardless, since Nick Saban retired. But the fact that the NCAA think that this is something that this is their smoking gun, this is their concrete evidence against Tennessee, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, let's get some real stuff. Like, there's real evidence out there somewhere. I just don't think that the NCAA is trying, to be absolutely honest. I think that they're really just letting it play through, and they're hoping things just work itself out. Or they hope that Congress will throw them a bone and save them from themselves, which is really bad to see, that they're desperate enough to let somebody else do their job for them. They could have had these rules in place. They could have made it easy for these kids to get paid. They could have helped build some of these unions to where these things could be collectively bargained and players can start getting checks. They could have done that. But they didn't want to. They just want things to be how they are. And now, as all these antitrust lawsuits start to play out in court, next 3 to 5 years, man, NCAA will probably not be here. Well, in a capacity, they'll be here. But they won't be over football no more. Football's going to change, in which it needs to change. It needs to change to where it's something that's actually viable, actually realistic. Because what we've got today ain't. It ain't going to work long term. And if it means that some schools got to lose their teams, were they actually going to compete for a national championship anyway? I mean, they're kind of here just to get beat up by the big schools. Most of these teams here are just here to be, warm-ups. And I feel bad for saying that, but it's the truth. Go look. Who has actual chances of winning national championships? Not very many. The window is very small. Very small. Certain schools got it because you got to have the resources to do it. And ain't no way of equaling that playing field. You cannot equal out a playing field of donors donating to your school. There's a lot of schools that got a lot more money than these big college football programs, and they just don't put it on football because they don't want to. They ain't interested in that. They're interested in other stuff. So that's what it is. Hop in the comments. Let me know. Do y'all think Tennessee broke some rules? Y'all think the NCAA actually has a leg to stand on? Do you think that they can win this fight? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't see it. You made it this far, you like the content, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Love for you to join us. It's a band of college football fans diving into college football and all the craziness that's going on. Love for you to be a part of it. All right, we're out. I'll be gone for the next week, taking vacation because I need a break. And we'll hit it hard and heavy when I get back. Peace.